You're standing at the edge of nothing. There is no earth beneath your feet, no sky above your head, no light, no darkness. There is only chaos, a vast, swirling emptiness where nothing has form or meaning. This is how the ancient Greeks imagined the beginning of everything. You're witnessing the birth of the cosmos, and you're about to see how gods, titans, and the world itself came into being. From chaos, the first beings emerge. You watch as Gaia appears, the earth itself taking form. She's not just the ground you'll walk on, she is the ground. Every mountain, every valley, every grain of soil is part of her living body. Next comes Tartarus, the deep abyss far below the earth where the darkest things will be imprisoned. Then Eros appears, the primordial force of love and attraction that will drive all creation forward. You see Gaia create Uranus, the sky, without needing a partner. Uranus spreads himself above Gaia, covering her completely. Together they begin to have children, and you're watching the birth of the first divine beings. But these aren't the gods you've heard about, Zeus, Athena, or Apollo. Those come later. First come the Titans, massive beings of incredible power. You count 12 Titans as they're born. There's Oceanus, the great river that circles the world. Hyperion, who will father the sun and moon. Themis, who represents divine law and order. Mnemosyne, the embodiment of memory. And the youngest, Cronus, who you notice has a calculating look in his eyes. These titans are beautiful and terrible, and they're so large that when they move, the newly formed earth shakes. But Gaia and Uranus have other children too, and these frighten you. You see the Cyclopes being born, 3 massive beings, each with a single eye in the center of their forehead. They're skilled craftsmen despite their monstrous appearance. Then come the Hecatontyres, the 100-handed ones. Each has 50 heads and 100 arms. They're so powerful and so strange that even Uranus fears them. You watch as Uranus makes a terrible decision. He's disgusted and afraid of the Cyclopes and Hecatontyres. As soon as each one is born, he pushes them back into Gaia's body, imprisoning them in her depths. You can see Gaia's pain. She's the earth itself, and these powerful beings are trapped inside her, causing her constant agony. She grows angry at Uranus, and her anger will change everything. Gaia called her Titan children together. She's created a weapon, a great sickle made of adamant, an unbreakable divine metal. She asks which of her children will help her get revenge on Uranus. Most of the Titans are too afraid. Uranus is the sky itself. How can anyone fight him? But Cronus, the youngest, steps forward. You see the ambition in his eyes. He agrees to help his mother. You're there on the night when Uranus comes down to lie with Gaia as he does every evening. Cronus is hiding, waiting with a sickle. At the right moment, he strikes. You turn away from the violence, but you hear Uranus's cry of pain echo across the cosmos. Cronus has castrated his father with the sickle. You watch as drops of blood fall from the wound. Where the blood hits the earth, new beings spring up. The Furies, spirits of vengeance, and the Giants, huge warriors born from violence. Uranus retreats to the high heavens, wounded and furious. He'll never come down to earth again. As he departs, he makes a prophecy. He curses Cronus, telling him that just as he overthrew his father, Cronus will one day be overthrown by his own son. You see Cronus's face darken. He's won, but the prophecy plants a seed of fear that will grow into paranoia. Now Cronus rules as king of the cosmos. The age of the Titans has begun. You watch as Cronus and his sister Rhea become partners and begin to rule together. The world enters a golden age. Humans don't exist yet, but when they do appear, poets will say that the age of Cronus was a time of peace and plenty. There was no war, no need to work, and the earth gave its fruits freely. But you remember Uranus's curse, and so does Cronus. When Rhea becomes pregnant with their first child, you see the fear in Cronus's eyes. He remembers the prophecy. One of his children will overthrow him just as he overthrew his father. He decides he won't let that happen. When Rhea gives birth to their first daughter, Hestia, you watch in horror as Cronus takes the baby and swallows her whole. You want to stop him, but you're only a witness to these ancient events. Rhea's devastated, but she's powerless against her husband. She becomes pregnant again, and the same thing happens. Demeter, their second daughter, is swallowed by Cronus the moment she's born. Then comes Hera, and Cronus swallows her too. Then Hades, then Poseidon. 5 children, all swallowed by their paranoid father. You need to understand something important. These children aren't dead. They're gods, and gods can't die. They're trapped inside Cronus, fully conscious, waiting in darkness. You can almost hear them calling out, but no one can help them. Rhea is pregnant for the 6th time, and she's determined this child will survive. She goes to her mother Gaia for help. Together, they make a plan. When Rhea gives birth to this child, a son named Zeus, she hides him in a cave on the island of Crete. You're in that cave, watching as nymphs care for the infant god. Warriors called the Curetes dance and clash their shields outside the cave, making noise to cover the sound of baby Zeus crying. Meanwhile, Rhea takes a large stone and wraps it in swaddling cloths. She brings it to Cronus and tells him she's given birth. Cronus, not even looking carefully, swallows the stone whole. He thinks he's safe. He swallowed all of his 6 children. The prophecy can't come true now. But you know better. Zeus is alive and growing strong in his hidden cave. You watch Zeus grow from infant to child to young man. He is raised by the nymphs and fed on honey and the milk of a magical goat named Ameletha. He grows strong and... You're in that cave on Crete, and Zeus is now fully grown. He's tall and powerful, with dark hair and eyes that flash like lightning. He's been training, preparing for this moment. The nymphs who raised him have told him everything, how his father Cronus swallowed his siblings, how he alone escaped that fate. Now, Zeus is ready to fulfill the prophecy and challenge his father for rule of the cosmos. But Zeus knows he can't defeat Cronus alone. The Titan King is incredibly powerful, and he has his Titan siblings to support him. Zeus needs allies. First, he needs to free his brothers and sisters from inside Cronus's belly. You watch as Zeus seeks out Metis, a Titaness known for her wisdom and cunning. She's one of the few Titans who doesn't support Cronus's harsh rule. Metis creates a special potion for you to see. It's a mixture that will make Cronus violently sick. Zeus disguises himself and manages to get close to his father. He tricks Cronus into drinking the potion. You watch as Cronus begins to feel ill. His face turns pale. Then he starts vomiting. First comes the stone that Rhea wrapped in swaddling cloths all those years ago. Then, one by one, Cronus vomits up his children. You see them emerge, fully grown and furious. First comes Poseidon, god of the seas, with his powerful build and stormy temper. Then Hades, lord of the underworld, dark and serious. Then the three sisters, Hestia, gentle goddess of the hearth, Demeter, goddess of the harvest with her kind eyes, and Hera, proud and beautiful, who will become queen of the gods. They've been trapped inside their father for years, and now they're free and ready for revenge. Zeus stands before his siblings and reveals his identity. You watch as these six gods meet for the first time as free beings. Zeus tells them his plan to overthrow Cronus and the Titans. Some are eager. Poseidon cracks his knuckles, ready for battle. Hades nods grimly. The sisters are more cautious, but they agree. They all know that Cronus will never let them live in peace now that they're free. Zeus knows he needs even more allies. He travels deep into the earth to the dark places where Uranus imprisoned the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires so long ago. You descend with him into these depths. It's dark and oppressive. Finally, you reach the prisoners. The three Cyclopes look up as Zeus approaches. The three Hecatoncheires, with their 100 hands and 50 heads each, watch him with multiple sets of eyes. Zeus makes them an offer. If they join him in fighting the Titans, he'll set them free forever. The Cyclopes agree immediately. In gratitude, they use their incredible smithing skills to create weapons for the gods. For Zeus, they forge thunderbolts, powerful lightning that he can throw as weapons. For Poseidon, they create a trident that can shake the earth and control the seas. For Hades, they craft a helmet of invisibility. You watch as each god receives their signature weapon, the tools they'll use for the rest of eternity. The Hecatoncheires also agree to help. With their 100 hands, each one can throw 100 boulders at once. They'll be devastating in battle. Now Zeus has his army. The war is about to begin. You're on Mount Olympus, the Titan stronghold, when the war starts. This conflict will be called the Titanomachy, and it will last for 10 years. You watch as the cosmos itself becomes a battlefield. Zeus hurls his thunderbolts from the sky. You see the lightning crack across the heavens, striking Titan warriors. Poseidon strikes the earth with his trident, causing earthquakes and tidal waves. The seas rage and mountains crumble. The Titans fight back fiercely. Atlas, the strongest of them, leads their armies. Hyperion blazes with the light of the sun. The fighting is so intense that the earth burns and the seas boil. You feel the ground shake beneath your feet. The sky fills with smoke and fire. This isn't a battle between mortals. This is gods and titans fighting for control of creation itself. The Hecatoncheires prove to be crucial. You watch as these 100-handed giants hurl mountains at the titans. Rocks the size of cities fly through the air. The titans, powerful as they are, can't withstand this assault. One by one, they begin to fall back. The tide of battle is turning. Cronus himself faces Zeus in single combat. Father against son. Old king against new challenger. You watch as Zeus throws thunderbolts after thunderbolt. Cronus is strong, but Zeus is younger, faster, and filled with righteous anger. The battle between them shakes the foundations of the world. Finally, Zeus lands a decisive blow. Cronus falls, defeated but not destroyed, because titans, like gods, can't truly die. The remaining titans surrender or flee. You watch the aftermath of victory. Zeus and his siblings must decide what to do with the defeated titans. They can't kill them, but they can't leave them free either. Zeus orders most of the titans to be imprisoned in Tartarus, that deep abyss far below the earth that came into being at the start of creation. The Hecatoncheires become the jailers, using their 100 hands to guard the prisoners and make sure they never escape. But not all titans are punished. Some, like Metis, who help Zeus, are allowed to remain free. Others who didn't fight against the gods are also spared. But Atlas, who led the Titan armies, receives a special punishment. You watch as Zeus condemns him to hold up the sky for eternity. Atlas must stand at the western edge of the world, bearing the weight of the heavens on his shoulders forever. It's a punishment that will never end. Now comes a division of the world. Zeus and his two brothers, Poseidon and Hades, draw lots to determine who to rule what. You watch as they make their choice. Zeus draws the sky and becomes king of the gods, ruler of the heavens and lord of thunder and lightning. Poseidon draws the seas and becomes god of all waters, earthquakes, and storms. Hades draws the underworld and becomes lord of the dead and all the riches hidden beneath the earth. The three sisters also take their roles. Hera becomes Zeus's wife and king of the gods, protector of marriage and family. Demeter becomes goddess of agriculture, the harvest and the fertility of the earth. Hestia becomes goddess of the hearth and home, the center of family life. Together, these six siblings form the core of what will become the Olympian gods. Zeus chooses Mount Olympus as the home of the gods. You climb this highest mountain in Greece with them. At its peak, above the clouds, they build their palaces. You see Zeus's great hall where he'll sit on his throne and rule. You see the magnificent homes of each god built from materials that never decay. Olympus becomes the center of divine power, a place where mortals can never reach without the gods' permission. But ruling the cosmos isn't simple. Zeus must establish order and law. You watch as he appoints other gods to help govern the world. More divine beings emerge or join the Olympians. Apollo, god of the sun, music, and prophecy. Artemis, goddess of the hunt and the moon. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, who will spring fully grown from Zeus's head. Ares, god of war in its violent form. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Hephaestus, the smith god, who crafts wonderful things. Hermes, the messenger god who travels between worlds. You stand on Olympus and look down at the world below. The age of the Titans has ended. The age of the Olympian gods has begun. Zeus sits on his throne, thunderbolt in hand, ready to rule. The gods have their domains, their powers, and their personalities. Some are kind to mortals, others are cruel. Some are wise, others are petty. They're immortal and powerful, but they have emotions and conflicts just like humans do, only on a cosmic scale. The war is over, but the stories are just beginning. You've witnessed the greatest battle in mythological history and seen the...
You're standing in the great hall of Mount Olympus, and the sight takes your breath away. The floor is made of polished marble that gleams like starlight. Golden columns reach up to a ceiling painted with clouds that actually move. Through the open sides of the hall, you can see all of Greece spread below you, and beyond that, the entire world. This is the throne room of the gods, and you're about to meet the 12 Olympians who rule from here. Let me introduce you to Zeus first, because he sits on the highest throne. He's the king of the gods, lord of the sky and thunder. When you look at him, you see power and authority, but also something unpredictable. Zeus can be generous and just, handing down wise judgments. But he also has a terrible temper. When he's angry, storms rage across the earth. His thunderbolts can split mountains. You notice that all the other gods respect him, though some also fear him. Zeus has one great weakness that causes endless problems. He falls in love constantly. Despite being married to Hera, Zeus pursues goddesses, nymphs, and mortal women. You'll see him transform into different shapes to seduce them. A swan, a bull, a shower of gold, even a cloud. These affairs will create many of the heroes and stories you'll hear about. But they also create another problem, because Hera is watching and she's not pleased. Next to Zeus sits Hera, and you can feel the tension between them. She's beautiful and regal, wearing a crown and holding a scepter. Hera is the goddess of marriage and family, which makes Zeus's constant infidelity especially painful for her. You see the anger in her eyes. Hera takes terrible revenge on Zeus's lovers and their children. She's jealous, proud, and can be cruel when she feels wronged. But she's also fiercely protective of married women and legitimate children. Many queens pray to her for help. You see Poseidon enter the hall, and water drips from his robes, even though he's been out of the sea for hours. He carries his trident and has the look of someone who's more comfortable in his ocean palace than here on Olympus. Poseidon rules all waters, oceans, rivers, lakes, and springs. He's also the god of earthquakes and horses. His temper is as stormy as the seas he controls. When Poseidon is angry, he strikes the ground with his trident and causes earthquakes. When he's pleased, he calms the waves for sailors. You notice he argues with Zeus sometimes, and there's rivalry between these two brothers. Hades rarely visits Olympus. He prefers his dark kingdom beneath the earth. But you travel down to meet him in the underworld. It's not a place of fire and torture like you might imagine. It's dim and gray, filled with shadows. The dead walk here as pale ghosts, remembering their lives. Hades sits on his throne of black stone, wearing a crown and holding his helmet of invisibility. He's serious and stern, but not evil. He's just doing his duty, ruling the dead. His wife Persephone sits beside him for part of each year. Hades is fair in his judgments, and unlike his brothers, he's faithful to his wife. Back on Olympus, you meet Athena, and you're immediately impressed by her calm intelligence. She wears armor and carries a spear, but she's not violent like Ares. Athena is the goddess of wisdom, strategy, and civilized warfare. She helps heroes who use their brains, not just their muscles. You watch as she gives advice to mortals, teaching them crafts, helping them build cities, showing them how to make olive oil. Athens is named after her because she won a contest by giving the city the olive tree, a more useful gift than Poseidon's saltwater spring. Apollo walks past and you're dazzled by his beauty. He's the god of the sun, music, poetry, prophecy, and healing. Apollo plays a golden lyre so beautifully that everyone stops to listen. He's rational and ordered, representing civilization and art. But he can also be deadly. His silver bow shoots arrows that bring plague. You see him at his Oracle in Delphi, where priestesses speak his prophecies. Kings and commoners come here to learn the future, though Apollo's predictions are often cryptic and hard to understand. Apollo's twin sister Artemis is as wild as he is civilized. She's the goddess of the hunt, wild animals, and the moon. You see her running through forests with her hunting dogs and a group of nymphs who've sworn never to marry. Artemis wears a short tunic for easy movement and carries a bow like her brothers. She protects young girls and women in childbirth. But she's fierce too. Any man who sees her bathing or threatens her nymphs faces her deadly arrows. She values freedom and independence above all else. Aphrodite glides into the hall and everyone turns to look. She's the goddess of love and beauty, born from the sea foam. Wherever she goes, people fall in love. She wears a magical belt that makes her irresistible. But you learn that Aphrodite's love can be a curse as much as a blessing. She causes people to fall passionately in love, sometimes with the wrong person, leading to tragedy. She's vain and can be petty when someone claims to be more beautiful than her. Her husband is Hephaestus, but she doesn't love him. She prefers Ares, the god of war. Speaking of Ares, you see him sharpening his sword in the corner. He's tall and muscular, covered in armor stained with blood. Ares is the god of violent warfare, not strategy like Athena, but the chaos and bloodlust of battle. Most gods don't like him because he enjoys violence for its own sake. He represents the worst aspects of war: cruelty, rage, and destruction. Even Zeus doesn't particularly like his son Ares, though he tolerates him because war is a part of the world. Hephaestus works in his forge beneath a volcano. He's the only Olympian who isn't beautiful. He's lame, walks with a limp, and his face is scarred from working with fire. But his hands create wonders. You watch him forge weapons, jewelry, and magical objects. He made the palaces on Olympus, Zeus's thunderbolts, and countless other divine items. Hephaestus is kind despite being rejected by his mother Hera for his ugliness. He's married to Aphrodite, though she doesn't appreciate him. He finds comfort in his work, creating beauty even though he isn't beautiful himself. Hermes rushes in wearing his wing sandals and traveler's hat. He's the messenger of the gods, the god of travelers, merchants, thieves, and boundaries. Hermes is clever and quick-witted. He can talk his way out of any situation. You watch as he delivers messages between gods, guides dead souls to the underworld, and helps heroes on their quests. He's friendly and mischievous, always ready with a joke or a trick. Even as a baby, he stole Apollo's cattle and invented the lyre. He's the god who moves between worlds, comfortable everywhere. Demeter comes in carrying stalks of wheat. She's the goddess of agriculture and the harvest. Everything that grows from the earth is her domain. When Demeter is happy, crops flourish and everyone eats well. But when her daughter Persephone was taken to the underworld by Hades, Demeter's grief caused the first winter. Nothing would grow until Persephone returned. Now, Persephone spends part of each year in the underworld, and during that time, Demeter mourns and winter comes. When Persephone returns, spring arrives and the earth blooms again. Hestia is the eldest of Zeus's siblings, but also the quietest. She's a goddess of the hearth and home. She never leaves Olympus and avoids the drama and conflicts of the other gods. Every home has a hearth fire dedicated to her. Every city has a public hearth where her flame burns. Hestia represents stability, warmth, and the center of family life. She's gentle and peaceful, and everyone respects her. Sometimes Dionysus is counted among the 12 Olympians instead of Hestia. He's the god of wine, celebration, theater, and ecstasy.
You're standing on the earth in the early days of creation, and something is missing. The gods rule from Olympus. Animals fill the forests and seas, but there are no humans yet. The world is beautiful, but empty of the beings who will worship the gods, build cities, and create civilizations. You're about to witness the creation of humanity and meet the Titan who loved humans more than he loved his own safety. Let me introduce you to Prometheus. He's a Titan, but unlike most of his brothers, he sided with Zeus during the war against Cronus. His name means forethought because he can see into the future. His brother Epimetheus, whose name means afterthought, acts first and thinks later. Together, these two titans are given a task by Zeus: create life on Earth. You watch as Epimetheus eagerly starts creating animals. He gives the lion strength and sharp teeth. He gives the eagle keen eyesight and wings. He gives the turtle a hard shell for protection. He gives the deer speed to escape predators. You see him distributing gifts to each animal: fur for warmth, claws for defense, venom for hunting. Epimetheus is enjoying himself, but he's not thinking ahead. He's giving away all the best gifts. Prometheus works more carefully. He's shaping creatures from clay and water, forming them in the image of the gods. You watch his hands mold the first humans. They stand upright, unlike the animals. Their faces look up toward the heavens rather than down at the ground. These are humans, and they're special. But when Prometheus looks for gifts to give them, he discovers that Epimetheus has already distributed everything. Humans have no fur against the cold, no claws to defend themselves, no venom to hunt with. They're weak and vulnerable. Prometheus realizes that humans need something special to survive. You see him watching from afar as these first humans struggle. They huddle in caves, afraid of the dark. They eat raw meat and uncooked plants. They shiver through cold nights. Wild animals hunt them easily. Prometheus feels compassion for these creatures he helped create. He decides they need fire. But there's a problem. Fire belongs to the gods. Zeus has declared that humans cannot have it. Fire is divine, a gift that separates gods from mortals. With fire, humans could cook food, warm themselves, forge metal, and become powerful. Zeus wants humans to remain weak and dependent on the gods. Prometheus sees this as cruel. He believes humans deserve a chance to thrive. You're with Prometheus as he makes his fateful decision. He climbs Mount Olympus when the gods are distracted. He sneaks into Hephaestus's forge where the divine fire burns. You watch as he takes a hollow fennel stalk and lights it with the sacred flame. The fire catches inside the stalk, hidden and safe. Prometheus carries it down from Olympus and brings it to humans. You see the moment when Prometheus gives fire to the first human. The person's face lights up with wonder as they hold the flame. Others gather around, feeling its warmth. Soon, humans are making fires in their caves. They cook their food and find it tastes better. They stay warm through winter nights. They venture out in the darkness carrying torches. They begin to shape metal into tools and weapons. Fire changes everything. But Prometheus doesn't stop there. You watch as he teaches humans many things. He shows them how to build houses instead of living in caves. He teaches them about medicine so they can heal their sick. He shows them mathematics and astronomy so they can understand the heavens. He teaches them how to tame animals, how to build ships, how to write. Prometheus is giving humans the knowledge they need to build civilization. Zeus looks down from Olympus and sees smoke rising from human fires all across the earth. He's furious. Humans were supposed to be simple creatures who offered prayers and sacrifices. Now they're becoming clever and self-sufficient. Zeus knows immediately who's responsible. Only Prometheus would dare to defy him like this. You're on Olympus when Zeus confronts Prometheus. The Titan stands calmly before the angry god king. Zeus demands to know why Prometheus betrayed him. Prometheus explains that humans deserved a chance to survive and thrive. They're not just animals or slaves for the gods' amusement. They have potential for greatness. Zeus doesn't care about Prometheus's reasoning. The Titan has defied his command, and there must be punishment. The punishment Zeus devises is terrible. You follow as Prometheus is dragged to the Caucasus Mountains, a remote and desolate place at the edge of the world. There, Prometheus is chained to a rock with unbreakable bonds forged by Hephaestus. The chains cut into his flesh. But this isn't the worst part. Zeus sends an eagle, some say it's his own sacred eagle, to torment Prometheus. You watch in horror as the eagle comes each day at dawn. It lands on Prometheus and tears at his body with its sharp beak and talons. The eagle eats Prometheus's liver, while the Titan screams in agony. Because Prometheus is immortal, his liver grows back each night. Every morning, the eagle returns to feast again. This torture will continue forever, or so Zeus decrees. Every single day, the same suffering, with no end in sight. Prometheus could end his torment. Zeus has offered him to free him if he reveals a secret. Prometheus knows a prophecy about Zeus's future, that the king of gods will be overthrown by his own son if he marries a certain goddess. Zeus desperately wants to know which goddess so he can avoid this fate. But Prometheus refuses to tell. He won't help Zeus after the god has shown such cruelty to him and such indifference to humanity. Years pass, then centuries. You visit Prometheus chained to his rock. The eagle has just finished its daily meal and flies away. Prometheus is in terrible pain, but when he sees you, he doesn't complain. Instead, he looks down at the human world far below. He sees smoke from thousands of fires. He sees cities rising. He sees ships sailing the seas. He sees humans creating art, solving problems, and building civilizations. Despite his suffering, Prometheus smiles. His sacrifice was worth it. But Zeus isn't finished punishing those who helped humans. You're on Olympus when Zeus orders Hephaestus to create something new. The smith god shapes clay into the form of the first woman. Each god contributes something to her creation. Athena teaches her crafts and weaving. Aphrodite gives her beauty. Apollo gives her musical talent. Hermes gives her a cunning mind and the ability to lie. She's named Pandora, which means all gifted, because each god gave her a gift. Zeus has a special gift for Pandora. He gives her a beautiful jar, often mistranslated as a box, and tells her never to open it. Inside, Zeus has sealed all the evils that can plague humanity: disease, old age, envy, spite, revenge, and countless other miseries. Zeus sends Pandora down to earth as a bride for Epimetheus, Prometheus's brother. You're there when Pandora arrives at Epimetheus's house. Prometheus had warned his brother never to accept gifts from Zeus, but Epimetheus sees beautiful Pandora and forgets his brother's advice. He welcomes her into his home. They live together happily at first, but Pandora is curious about the jar Zeus gave her. She wonders what's inside. Every day, the curiosity grows stronger. Finally, Pandora can't resist.
You're in the ancient world now, in the age of heroes. These are mortals born with divine blood in their veins, children of gods and humans. They're stronger, braver, and destined for greatness. But their lives are never easy. You're about to meet 3 of the greatest heroes and witness their battles against monsters that terrorize the world. Let me take you first to the island of Seriphos, where a young man named Perseus lives with his mother, Danae. Perseus is the son of Zeus, born when the king of gods visited Danae as a shower of golden light. The king of Seriphos wants to marry Danae, but Perseus protects his mother. The king grows frustrated and decides to get rid of Perseus by sending him on an impossible quest. He demands that Perseus bring him the head of Medusa, one of the 3 Gorgons. You need to understand what this means. The Gorgons are monsters. sisters who live far away on the edge of the world. They have brass hands, golden wings, and snakes instead of hair. But the worst thing about them is their gaze. Anyone who looks directly at a Gorgon turns instantly to stone. Their lairs surrounded by statues, warriors who came to kill them and failed, frozen forever in their final moments of terror. Medusa is the only mortal Gorgon, which means she can be killed, but getting close enough to kill her seems impossible. Perseus accepts the quest, knowing it's likely a death sentence. But the gods take pity on him. You watch as Athena appears to Perseus offering help. She gives him a polished bronze shield, bright as a mirror. Hermes arrives with winged sandals that let Perseus fly. From the nymphs, Perseus receives a special bag that will safely hold Medusa's head, and the helmet of invisibility that once belonged to Hades. You fly with Perseus to the land of the Gorgons. The journey takes you to the very edge of the known world. Past the pillars where Atlas holds up the sky. Finally you see them, 3 sleeping monsters, their snake hair writhing even in sleep. The statues of dead heroes surround them like a garden of stone. Perseus knows he cannot look directly at Medusa or he'll become another statue. You watch as Perseus puts on the helmet of invisibility. He approaches silently, holding Athena's shield in front of him. He doesn't look at Medusa directly. Instead, he watches her reflection in the polished bronze. The reflection cannot turn him to stone. Slowly, carefully, he raises his sword. In one swift motion, he strikes. Medusa's head is severed cleanly. Something amazing happens. From Medusa's neck, where Perseus cut, 2 beings spring forth. Pegasus, the magnificent winged horse, leaps into the sky, and Chrysaor, a giant with a golden sword, appears fully formed. These were Medusa's unborn children by Poseidon, held inside her all this time. But you don't have time to marvel at this. The other 2 Gorgons wake up and realize their sister is dead. They shriek and begin to chase you. Perseus stuffs Medusa's head into the magic bag, puts on his winged sandals, and flies away. The Gorgons pursue him with their brass claws reaching out, but Perseus is invisible and fast. He escapes across the sea, heading home. On the way, he passes over Ethiopia and sees a beautiful woman chained to rocks by the shore. Her name is Andromeda, and she's been left as a sacrifice to a sea monster. You see the monster rise from the waves, a massive creature with scales, teeth, and rage. It's coming for Andromeda. Perseus doesn't hesitate. He swoops down, pulls Medusa's head from the bag, and holds it up before the monster's eyes. The sea creature looks at the Gorgon's face and immediately turns to stone, sinking beneath the waves as a lifeless statue. Perseus frees Andromeda and they fall in love. He takes her with him back to Seriphos. When Perseus arrives home, he finds that the king has been threatening his mother, trying to force her to marry him. Perseus walks into the king's hall where he's feasting with his supporters. The king mocks Perseus, saying he's failed and come back empty-handed. Perseus tells everyone to look away, then pulls Medusa's head from the bag. The king and his supporters look at it and turn to stone, frozen in their seats forever. Perseus has saved his mother and completed his impossible quest. Now, let me take you to Athens, where you meet Theseus. He's the son of Poseidon, though he was raised believing the king of Athens was his father. Theseus is brave and determined to prove himself. He travels to Athens, defeating bandits and monsters along the way. But when he arrives, he discovers Athens is in mourning. You learned a terrible reason. King Minos of Crete once had a son who was killed in Athens. As punishment, Minos demanded tribute. Every 9 years, Athens must send 7 young men and 7 young women to Crete. There, they're fed to the Minotaur, a monster that's half man and half bull. The Minotaur lives in the center of a massive labyrinth, a maze so complex that no one who enters can ever find their way out. The young athletes are sent into the maze to wander until the Minotaur finds them and devours them. This year, the tribute is due again. Theseus volunteers to be one of the 7 young men. He plans to kill the Minotaur and end this horror. His father begs him not to go, but Theseus is determined. He promises that if he succeeds, he'll change his ship's black sails to white ones, so his father will know he survived. The ship with the tribute sails to Crete, and you're on board it. In Crete, you meet Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos. She sees Theseus and falls in love with him immediately. She wants to help him survive. Ariadne goes to Daedalus, the brilliant craftsman who designed the labyrinth. He gives her a simple solution, a ball of thread. Ariadne secretly gives this thread to Theseus along with a sword. You enter the labyrinth with Theseus and the other young Athenians. The labyrinth is dark and confusing. Passages branch in every direction. You hear distant roaring echoing through the stone corridors. Theseus ties the thread to the entrance and unrolls it as you walk deeper into the labyrinth. This way you can follow the thread back to escape. The passages wind endlessly. You're completely lost, but the thread keeps on rolling. Finally, you reach the center of the labyrinth. There, in a large chamber, you see the Minotaur. It's a massive creature with a bull head on a muscular human body. Its horns are sharp and its eyes are filled with rage and hunger. The floor is littered with bones from previous victims. The Minotaur charges at Theseus with a roar that shakes the walls. Theseus dodges and strikes with his sword. The fight is brutal. The Minotaur is incredibly strong and Theseus is knocked down several times. But he's quick and smart. He waits for the right moment, and when the Minotaur charges again, he drives his sword deep into the creature's heart. The monster falls and dies. Theseus and the other young Athenians follow the thread back through the labyrinth. They emerge into daylight and escape to their ship with Ariadne. But on the journey home,
you're in ancient Thrace, and you hear the most beautiful music you've ever experienced. The sound comes from a lyre, played by a young man sitting beneath a tree. Birds stop flying to listen. Wild animals emerge from the forest and sit peacefully around him. Even the trees seem to lean closer to hear better. This is Orpheus, the greatest musician who ever lived, and his story is one of the most heartbreaking tales in all of Greek mythology. Orpheus is the son of one of the Muses, the goddesses of art and inspiration. His music can charm anything: animals, plants, even rocks and rivers. When he plays, stones weep. When he sings, the wind stops blowing to listen. You watch as Orpheus falls deeply in love with a beautiful woman named Eurydice. She loves him just as deeply, and they marry in a ceremony filled with joy and music. But their happiness is brief. On their wedding day, Eurydice walks through a meadow with her friends. A man tries to assault her, and she runs away through the grass. In her panic, she doesn't see the snake hidden in the tall grass. The serpent bites her ankle, and its venom is deadly. You watch helplessly as Eurydice collapses. Her friends rush to her, but it's too late. She dies with her new husband's name on her lips. Orpheus is devastated. His grief is so profound that his music changes. Every song he plays now is filled with sorrow. The joy has gone from his melodies. He cannot accept that Eurydice is gone forever. He makes a decision that no mortal has dared before. He will go to the underworld and bring her back. You follow Orpheus as he finds the entrance to the underworld and begins his descent. The path leads down through dark caves and across the river Styx. Charon, the ferryman of the dead, usually refuses to take living people across. But when Orpheus plays his lyre, even Charon is moved. Tears run down the old ferryman's face as he rows Orpheus across without payment. You enter the underworld proper. It's dim and gray, filled with the shadows of the dead. Cerberus, the three-headed dog, guards the gates. He should attack any living person who tries to enter. But Orpheus plays his music, and all three of Cerberus's heads lay down peacefully. The monster lets you pass, whimpering softly. You walk through the fields of Asphodel, where ordinary souls wander. They gather around Orpheus, drawn by his music. Even in death, they're moved by his songs. Finally, you reach the palace of Hades and Persephone. Orpheus stands before the king and queen of the underworld and begins to play. He plays a song of love and loss. He sings about Eurydice, about their brief happiness, about his unbearable grief. His music fills the dark halls of the underworld. For the first time in eternity, you see tears on the faces of Hades and Persephone. The Furies, those spirits of vengeance with snakes in their hair, begin to weep. Even the damned souls being punished pause in their torments, given a moment of peace by Orpheus's song. Hades is moved in a way he's never been before. He agrees to let Eurydice return to the world of the living with Orpheus. But there's one condition. Orpheus must walk back to the surface with Eurydice following behind him. He must not look back at her until they both reach the sunlight. If he looks back even once while they're still in the underworld, she'll be lost to him forever. Orpheus agrees immediately. You begin the long journey back. Eurydice's shade follows Orpheus, and you walk with them. The path is dark and silent, except for your footsteps. Orpheus desperately wants to turn around to make sure Eurydice is really there. But he remembers Hades' warning. He keeps his eyes forward and keeps walking. The journey seems endless. You pass Cerberus, who watches you leave. You cross the river Styx again. The entrance to the world above appears ahead. You can see a faint light. Orpheus walks faster, eager to reach the surface. The light grows brighter. You're so close now. Just a few more steps. But doubt creeps into Orpheus's mind. He hasn't heard Eurydice's footsteps. What if she's not really there? What if Hades tricked him? What if she stumbled and fell behind? The doubt becomes unbearable. Just as Orpheus steps into the sunlight, just before Eurydice crosses the threshold, he turns around to look at her. For one brief, beautiful moment, Orpheus sees Eurydice. She's there, reaching out to him, so close to life again. But she hasn't yet stepped into the sunlight. She's still in the realm of the dead. You watch in horror as she begins to fade. She calls his name, not with anger, but with sadness and love. Then she's gone, pulled back into the underworld, lost forever this time. Orpheus tries to go back down, but now Charon refuses to ferry him across. The entrance to the underworld is barred to him. He's lost Eurydice twice, once to the snake's bite and once to his own moment of doubt. He returns to the world above, broken and empty. His music becomes his only solace, but now every song is about loss and regret. Let me take you to a different story, one with a happier ending. You're in Cyprus, in the workshop of a sculptor named Pygmalion. He's a master craftsman who can make stone look like living flesh.
You're standing at the edge of myth and history, where the stories of gods fade into the dawn of human memory. The great battles have been fought, the Titans are long gone, and the Olympians have taken their thrones. But something is changing. The world is moving forward, and mortals are beginning to ask new questions. The gods still rule, but their voices grow softer. Their stories, however, will never fade. You look around at the ancient world, the mountains of Greece, the marble temples, the olive groves shimmering in sunlight, and realize that everything here still breathes the presence of the divine. When the wind rushes through the trees, people still hear the whisper of Zeus. When the sea foams and roars, they feel Poseidon's fury. When the harvest ripens, they thank Demeter. The myths aren't just stories to them, they're explanations, a way to make sense of the mysterious and uncontrollable world around them. The ancient Greeks didn't have science to explain thunder or earthquakes or the turning of the seasons. They had stories. They believed that behind every natural force was a god, a will, a personality. The sun crossed the sky because Apollo drove his chariot of fire. The seasons changed because Demeter mourned her daughter in winter and rejoiced at her return in spring. Even the constellations told stories, heroes, monsters, and lovers frozen in the stars. To the Greeks, the world was alive with meaning. Every event, every emotion, every victory and loss reflected something divine. When people fell in love, it was Aphrodite's doing.
When rage consumed a soldier, Ares had touched his heart. When a craftsman created something beautiful, Athena had guided his hand. The myths made life feel connected to something larger, something eternal. But myths were more than explanations of nature. They were lessons about humanity. The gods were immortal, but they weren't perfect. They loved, hated, lied, cheated, and forgave. They made mistakes and paid the price for them. Through the gods, people saw reflections of themselves, magnified, exaggerated, but familiar. Zeus's pride, Hera's jealousy, Apollo's arrogance, Artemis's independence, Dionysus's chaos. All of these divine traits mirrored human nature. The myths warned about hubris, the danger of believing you could rival the gods. Icarus flew too close to the sun. Niobe boasted that she was a better mother than the goddess Leto. Prometheus defied Zeus by giving fire to humanity. Each story carried a moral about balance, humility, and respect for forces beyond one's control. Still, there was always a spark of admiration for those who challenged the divine order. The Greeks didn't just fear their gods, they questioned them. Heroes like Heracles, Perseus, and Odysseus stood between humanity and the divine, showing that courage, wit, and determination could bridge that gap. They represented the best of what humans could become, flawed, yet extraordinary, mortal, yet capable of greatness. Over centuries, these stories spread far beyond Greece. The Romans adopted them, giving the gods new names. Zeus became Jupiter, Hera became Juno, Poseidon became Neptune. But their power remained. Roman poets retold the myths, sculptors carved them in marble, and painters filled walls with scenes of divine drama. Even as empires rose and fell, the old stories endured. When the ancient world gave way to new religions and philosophies, the gods themselves seemed to withdraw. Their temples fell silent, their altars empty. People no longer sacrificed bulls or burnt incense in their honor. The Olympians faded from worship, but not from memory. Their images remained carved in stone, their names echoed in poetry, their symbols hidden in art and language. The myths evolved into metaphors. In time, the gods became ideas. Athena turned into the symbol of wisdom and reason. Apollo became the light of art, music, and knowledge. Dionysus came to represent freedom, passion, and creativity. The old divine battles became inner struggles, the war between logic and desire, order and chaos, restraint and ecstasy. Even today, we speak their language without realizing it. We call someone who shows great strength a Herculean person. We describe self-infatuation as narcissism. We speak of Pandora's box when curiosity unleashes unexpected troubles, and of Achilles' heel when a single flaw brings downfall. The myths are woven into our thoughts, our art, and our everyday words. Modern stories still echo their patterns. Every superhero film, every epic fantasy, every tale of love and loss borrows something from them. A hero's journey, leaving home, facing trials, conquering fear, and returning transformed, was first told in the myths of Heracles, Odysseus, and Perseus. When we tell stories about ambition, temptation, jealousy, and redemption, We're still retelling the same truths the Greeks expressed through their gods. And perhaps that's why the myths have never truly ended. They're not about ancient temples or forgotten rituals. They're about us, our fears, desires, and the search for meaning in a world that often feels vast and indifferent. The Greeks gave faces and names to the forces that shape our lives. We may no longer call them gods, but we still feel their presence. When we stand beneath a thunderstorm and feel both fear and awe, Zeus is there. When we look out over the endless sea and feel something powerful and unpredictable stir inside us, Poseidon whispers. When we fall in love so completely that reason disappears, Aphrodite smiles. When we sit in quiet reflection, seeking wisdom, Athena's light flickers in our minds. The myths live on, in the moments when we feel something greater than ourselves. As the world grew older and humans built civilizations, they began to believe that the gods had stepped back to let them rule their own destiny. Philosophers spoke of logic and science replacing divine will. Empires rose not by the favor of Zeus, but through armies and ambition. Yet even in the age of reason, people still look to the heavens for meaning. Because the truth is, myths were never meant to die. They change shape as the world changes. The Greeks once told them by firelight. The Romans carved them in stone. Medieval scholars wrote them in books. Renaissance artists painted them on ceilings. And today we tell them through film, music, and digital art. The medium changes, but the message endures. You stand now where myth meets memory, between the past that created gods and the present that remembers them. The stories of Zeus and Hera, of Prometheus